This is a guide for the Foundry Action HUD mod. This mod is the kind of minimal control bar that we used to use. Its name is Action HUD. I'm going to go through a few of the features of this that you may or may not have been aware of. So we're going to go through some of the settings for this, where you can change how it behaves, and then some customization. So first of all, the settings for this. We will go over to the game settings, go to configure settings, and here you can see we have a section for Token Action HUD, and then also there are some specific settings for the Pathfinder 2e version of this. So first of all, Token Action HUD. The first important setting here is just enabling and disabling the HUD. If we disable the HUD, it will just go away. So if you don't want to use it, you can disable it in the settings. The next one, which is dragging, choose when the HUD can be moved. When unlocked, and I'll show you unlocking the HUD in a minute, always or never. So the HUD here, you'll see I can try and drag this. I'm trying to drag this and it won't move unless I come over to this little padlock symbol, unlock HUD. If I click that, now when I hover over one of the buttons, click and drag it, I can move it to wherever I want. Here. Yeah, so I can have it at the top. And when you have it at the top, the menus go down. And when you have it near the bottom, the menus go up. Yeah, and then you can lock it, and then you can't drag it around anymore. You can only drag it when it's unlocked, but you can change that to drag it always. And I like it this way, especially when you're getting used to using it. You might want to figure out where you want to put it, so you don't have to unlock it every time you want to move it around. So now it's locked, yeah, but we can still move it around. The next setting I think is worth knowing is the HUD scale. So if you've got a small screen or you just want it to be smaller or bigger, you can adjust the size of the HUD here. So we can make it, really big. Yeah, I mean, that's way too big. Then we can take it all the way down to pretty tiny. Click to open is interesting because at the moment when you hover over it, it opens. But if you enable click to open, you have to click on the button to open the thing, and it will stay open until you click on it again. Play the character name, that's this bit, you can turn that off. Sort the actions alphabetically. Items within here would be alphabetical. I think currently they appear in the order they appear on your character sheet. Pathfinder specific settings, I wouldn't really change any of these, but pretty much most of these are already on. They're very sensible settings. You can have a look at these yourself. Let's move on to customizing the HUD. The HUD itself is made up of these menu groups. So you've got a group for strikes, a group for action, so on, so on, so on, so on. And within the groups, you've got these shortcuts that are related to them. If I come over and unlock the HUD, we then get to see this Edit HUD button appears. It only appears when you've unlocked it. If we click on that, we'll see in here we have items for each of the buttons that appear on the HUD. In here we can do a few things. So we can double click on one to rename it. We can move them, reorder them. We can delete them. I wouldn't do this. You don't really kind of need to do it because, like, if your character, for example, doesn't have spells, you might think, oh, well, I'll just come in here and I'll delete the spells. Here we got Ezrin, and he has spells. But if I select Amiri, she doesn't have any spells, and you'll see that the spells category doesn't appear. A category will only appear if the character actually has items that will populate it. You might want to create your own categories, but we'll just call this custom category. And we've now got our custom area, and you can see over here we've now got this custom. Now if I lock it, you'll see it disappears because there's nothing in that custom item. So this will bring us on to how we can customize the menus themselves for each of the button items. I'm going to unlock this again, and I'm going to right click on the attack. This is where we bring up the customization for that button. And in here, we've got the items that are part of this menu. And then down at the bottom, we have the list of all of the items that we could add to that. Under attack, it's adding the item group attack. But we could come in here and, for example, add hero points in here, saves. And if we save this and come over here, we'll see now we've got hero points and we've got saves in there. So you can customize this any way you like. So our custom one, we might want to come across and do conditions and macros. Oh, we could put a bunch of macros in there. Let's save that. Under our custom one, we've got all the conditions, and then we've got like all the macros, some action macros like razor shield. So you can build your own, and that's how you would do it. The last thing I want to just talk about is placement of this. Foundry 12, this was a little bit easier. In version 13 that we're using, some of the UI items, particularly this and the sidebar, are much more dynamic now. For example, I'm just going to make the screen a bit smaller. The macro bar will bunch up when it hasn't got enough space. When you open encounters, now you can see it's getting really scrunched up. The message box is appearing when you have the sidebar open, but it's not on chat. When it's on chat, the chat goes to the bottom. Let's say you open up your playlists, you want to see what music's playing. Suddenly, like we've now got this chat box over here. This is all scrunched up, so you might kind of think, oh, well, I'll put this here. You close your thing, there we go, it's all scrunched up, but then you close that, and suddenly it's hovering up in air. The other thing, you might think, this is a really useful place to put it, but I think we just agreed that everybody wanted to use the carousel combat tracker, and that appears in this exact area. So you can now kind of see that you want your journals open, your carousel is up at the top. Now there's a bit of a problem. Where do we put this? Maybe you hover it below the carousel, but then when the encounter's not running, you've just got this big space up there. You might want to put it over to the right, but when we're in a game, like the player log appears up here, and sometimes you have, calendar and stuff appears over in this area. So it's one of the things I found a bit awkward with this mod, finding a good placement for it, particularly in Foundry 13 because of how dynamic the rest of the UI items are. Yeah, so the other thing you can do when you're not using this, there's a little arrow just to the left called Collapse HUD, and that'll just make it disappear. If you come over to Settings again and go to Configure Controls, there's a couple of shortcuts you can configure for both enable, disable the HUD, and collapse, expand the HUD. By default, there isn't a keybind set up for it, but you can come in here, you can click this, and you can say, when I hit H, it's going to enable, disable the HUD. I'm going to hit H, it goes away. Hit H, it comes back again. The other control, let's do like Alt H for this. That's much quicker. So lastly, I just wanted a reminder that you can zoom in and zoom out by doing Control plus will make everything bigger, and Control minus will make everything smaller. This is, for me on my laptop, this is the size with everything open. And if I do a Control minus, suddenly I've now got the macro bar is fully open, even with everything open on the sidebar and this. And now I can put this maybe down here, and that's going to be a nice place for it to live. Okay, I think that's everything I can think of. Let me know if I've missed anything, and I'll answer any questions I can in the comments.